Got a little breeze out here today. Mm-hmm. And the
All
only
right, Chair Burka, you are live.
Wonderful. We're going to call to order the regular session of the Public Safety Committee for March 23rd, 2021. I'm going to call it to order. The first order is to conduct the Pledge of Allegiance. Gary, can you give us the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
Sure can.
Okay, please stand.
Normally we have a flag on by our city seal, so we have no flag today. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the
United States of America, and for the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Cecilia, can you call the roll? Are you prepared?
I sure can. All right. Nick Bercuda.
Aye, here.
Joe Janis.
Here.
Rick Leffler.
Aye.
Gary Walsh.
Here.
And the Chief of San Clemente Police Services, Ed Manhart.
Here.
Okay, thank you.
But we got a couple of other people.
Oh, okay. I see you there. All right. We've got Chief Capobianco.
I'm here.
And we've got Mr. Malott.
Here.
Okay. I think that's everyone.
Good job. Okay. We're going to have to, the next order of business is the number 4 on their agenda, which is presentation. We're going to have to hold that off until our presenter can arrive. So at this point, I think we can go down to the minutes of our Special Public Safety Committee meeting of February 23rd. Got that in advance. Any questions, corrections on that? Okay, we can move to
I make a motion that we approve the minutes from the February 23rd meeting.
Second.
good. All in favor? Raise your hand. You got it. Good. Good. Thank you. Do we have any oral or written communications from the public?
I have not received any to read into the record.
Good. Okay. We got reviews and recommendations is the next issue here, number 7. So I'm going to hit up Captain Manhart for the contract services. We received a performance measures. Do you have any comments here, Ed, on this?
No, I don't.
Okay. Well, I think what we're going to do is we're going to look at these performance measures, see if they help us at all in understanding what's going on in the city. I can lead this off. What I've got here is for the first half of the fiscal year, starting July 20th, July of 2020. Let's see here. I've got a question on how this is laid out. There is 3 different sections here. One is workload output, one is number of incidents, and effectiveness. Each one of those has a listing of Part 1 crimes. Is that how is that relating to each one of these? Can you give us an idea there, Ed?
Give me a second. I'm pulling it up, and you're breaking in and out, so I'm not getting you completely.
Okay. Does anybody have a problem hearing me?
Yeah, you are breaking up just a little bit. That's pony up for some better internet connection.
God, I guess. Okay.
Okay, Nick, what were you asking about?
All right. In each one of those sections that are listed here, it lists it replicates that Part 1 crimes on each one of those. Is there what's the significance in each one of those having Part 1 crimes listed as far as numbers?
The significance, I guess, is just for information about Part 1 crimes. Obviously, are the significant crimes in the community. So therefore, this is just an informative piece where you guys are looking about the total calls for service, number of priority 1 receives, Part 1 crimes measured by the occurrences per 1,000 population. So it's just kind of like the presentation I did for the city council listing what they were. So I'm not sure exactly what you're asking.
Well, it just looks like it's just repetition. May not be necessary 3 times. Just housekeeping. One of the things that I'm looking at is the number of traffic collisions. What would be nice is can we get any more breakdown on locations and time of day and the type of accidents that are on that?
Well,
That's
I can task my staff with it if that's something that you desire.
Well, kind of looking at, I think it has a relationship to the number of moving violations, I would believe. You know, if you have a number of increases in traffic collisions, you'd probably want to increase the number of moving violations. However, is it the individual, what I'm looking for is the individual that is getting the citation or is causing the accident, is it causational that the guy is violating something, or is it an engineering problem that's the problem with the street?
Okay, well, let me know what you want, and then I will have my staff organize that information and put it together in a presentation for you. So therefore you can disseminate that.
Okay, now down in effectiveness, percentage of emergency calls responded to in 5 minutes less. Is there a target time that you have for this, or is it just 5 minutes is the deciding point?
So what the acceptable measure have been with the contract city, we target for 5 minutes for a priority 1 call, and that's anywhere in the 18 square miles of the city. So that is significantly important, and we try to maintain that, or actually lower it if we can. It's a challenge in the size of the city. So that's why we measure that, and the city is pretty interested in that, and the other contract cities as well. So that's why we present that.
Got it. Okay. All right. I've got any other comments or questions?
Yeah, but I just got one question. When you look at percent change in Part 1 crimes from current year to prior year, July 20th is 13.8, August is 14.2, and then September jumps up to 45.5%. And I imagine those are increases instead of decreases in Part 1 crimes. Was there any reason why September would tripled over the other months?
Well, it's the end of the summer, so the weather's warm, and traditionally, so July, August, September, September is probably one of the busiest months, just because of that. Vacations are ending, so that's the pinnacle of the population in the city from vacationing, and so that's why it would. My guess is that's why it would be up.
Okay, and is that first quarter 28 or 20.8%? Is that an average of the 3 months? Is that what that is?
Yes.
Okay, and so then the other quarter, October, November, December, doesn't have an average. Is that because you just ran out of paper or something like that?
Yeah, I believe the way it was put together.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. All right. Thanks.
I've got a couple of questions. Chief, is it possible to do a breakdown on your arrests, whether they were observation initiated, radio call initiated, or citizen initiated?
I could have the staff put that stuff together if that's something you want.
Yeah, and the other thing is, I'd also like to see what the available time the units have. You know, what the amount of time, but they're on 12-hour shifts. What part of that is available or clear time?
Okay.
Hey, Chief Manhart?
Yep.
Captain Manhart, or Chief, however you want to say it. So if I'm reading this right, the percentage of Part 1 crimes from the prior year, so for the first quarter, we had a 20%, almost a 21% increase. Is that correct?
Yes.
And okay. Is that fairly normal from year to year to go 20%?
Well, I'll tell you right now, last year, nothing was normal. So you're asking for consistency. I would throw that out with all the COVID issues and the pandemic and the political and civil unrest that we had, so that I wouldn't categorize that as normal.
Captain Manhart, just
Well, you just wanted to thank Vicky.
we're just trying to get a handle on Part 1 crimes. When we group them all together like this, it's kind of it's hard to tell what's the increases stuff. I hate to give more staff work, but do you report individual type crimes like burglaries and robberies and stuff like that, rather than just group them all together?
Yeah, what I'll do is I'll email you guys the presentation I did for the city council, and I have each Part 1 and Part 2 crime broken down.
Yeah, I think that would be very helpful for us, because to see where the increase. I don't know, and compare it against the previous year. I don't know if you have that available.
Actually, I do. So the presentation had the past 4 years. So I'll provide that to you. It would be a better breakdown of what exact crimes, and compared to the previous 4 years prior to that as well. I'll give that to you guys.
Yeah, I saw your presentation, Chief, when you gave it to the city council, and whatever PowerPoint that was would be really good for everybody else to see if they didn't catch it, because it definitely is pretty clear on all the issues that have been brought up.
Okay, I will give that to each one of you members. I'll send it to you guys.
Okay, I guess Vice Chair Janice has to take over. We've lost our chair.
Oh,
Oh, that's great.
wondered what happened there.
So I guess we're next to the contract fire service performance measures. Chief Bianca?
Yes, I'm here to answer any questions that you have.
Any questions for the chief?
No, I don't have any on that one.
I think that the only thing that might be questions, one, if you were to compare to last year's, I know this doesn't show for last year's, but as an organization, we've made a lot of effort of watching our crews across the county and trying to increase our get out times, get out of the station times. So you'll see at the average response time for calls is 6 minutes and 32 seconds. If you looked at last year's around this time was 7 minutes and 6 seconds. So across the county, we're seeing a decrease in the amount of time it takes for our guys to get out of the station. And really it's just watching over and reminding what we're there for. And we've seen a really positive change. And this is one of the first times that I've really looked at a city in whole. And I think that we've made a good step in the right direction when we look at some of our numbers. One of the other things that kind of brings up some question is the average response time, which what we shoot for is 7 minutes and 20 seconds. And I can explain that. I know I've explained it to you once before, but I can go in detail on that if you'd like. Versus the percent of calls within 7 seconds. So we kind of look at it two ways. The average, let's say we ran 3 calls, the average, and we ran a call that took 6 minutes, one at 7 minutes, and one at 8 minutes. The average would obviously be a 7-minute average response time, which would be below our standard that we shoot for. But we also look at the percent of calls that we make it in under that time. So using those 3 calls and the same average, yes, it would look like we're meeting our mark. But in reality, a 6 and a 7 and an 8 minute call would show that 66% of the time, or 2/3 of the time, that's the fractile portion, that we're actually making it unseen. So that's that percentage you see for the percent of calls versus just making that average response time. And we kind of look at it both ways and really dig into some of the reasons as why. And one of the challenges in San Clemente is just the streets themselves, the hills. That 5 minute, we give ourselves a 5-minute response time to get on scene. And that's a challenge in a city like San Clemente with the 3 stations that we have that we try to spread out throughout the city. So that's a little bit of insight on kind of how we look at things, but I'm available for any questions if you have them.
Yeah, do we have a ladder truck assigned to San Clemente?
You do. So your station up off of Vista Hermosa, station 59, is a paramedic truck. So it's a ladder truck, 100-foot truck. That's the station that should be getting a brand new truck within the next month or 2.
Is that going to be another ladder? That's going to be another ladder truck?
Correct. We'll just be replacing what we have with a newer truck.
And one last question. Do you guys, I assume it's up to whoever's commanding the station, but do you guys roll out and do like routine patrol besides just when you're going to pick up supplies?
Routine patrol, we don't, because, and your biggest thing, we're not, typically what we do, we're not out there similar to what law enforcement and lifeguards, marine safety would do. We don't really prevent medical aids. And to be out on patrol, I've been asked that question before, and if you know where that next fire is going to be, we absolutely could patrol that area and make a better response time. But our stations are picked geographically to be in the center, and some of the freeway centric. They're in a location for a reason. And so in reality, if we're going to be in a right spot waiting for a call, those stations are placed there for that reason. So we don't go out there and proactively patrol looking for the medical aids or even preventing the fires, because we don't know where they're going to be.
Chief, does your staffing change in the summertime when we get greater crowds at the beaches? Do you staff more units or anything?
Our staffing does not change. We have 4 staffing, so four people at each station, both paramedic engines and the paramedic truck, same number of paramedics. But what we do across the county, and we really look at as a regional basis, we do increase our staffing when the winds blow. So we have the staffing that would suffice for, say, the summertime, the greater crowds in downtown and at the beaches. Our staffing is consistent with that. But when the winds blow, we up staff across the county, from helicopters to hand crews to dozers to the Type 3 engine that's parked at Station 50. We will up staff all those engines and move them. At times, there's been a couple of years where we've actually brought a helicopter and parked it right next to the fire station at 59s. So we do that up staffing, but not on a normal basis, not seasonally.
But as far as medical aids, like paramedic units or ambulances, is that constant year round?
No, it definitely increases during the summer months. I think like all public safety, we get busier during the summer. But we don't upstaff in that. But what we do is we do move ups, what we call it. So as we get busy, as units get committed to incidents, if we're running a fire in San Clemente, we move resources from other parts of the county. Proactively, we move them down to cover the city, and especially with the layout and kind of the dead end or the cul-de-sac that San Clemente is for Orange County. We very proactively move resources down as we get busy.
Do you notice your response times go up during the summertime?
I have not noticed, and I'm actually looking at our quarters right now. There's not a significant increase in our response times.
Thank you.
You're muted, Nick.
Okay, how about it? I got a couple of questions, if I may.
I liked it better when you were muted.
So, on the number of emergency calls, is there a way to break these down into medical, fire, structure, vegetation type thing? I mean, it's all grouped together, and we really don't have a specific idea of what's going on with it.
Absolutely. And actually, I break them down, and we send out a newsletter every quarter. I don't know if it makes it to the Public Safety Committee yet. We do have that newsletter. It does get posted on the city's website. It breaks down all of our calls. We do that every quarter. So what I can do is I can make sure that it goes through the city and gets sent out to the Public Safety Committee. Maybe Cecilia, you can help me with that, but we'll make sure that you get our breakdown. And I think it's exactly what you're looking for. And then every quarter we kind of do heat maps. We specialize on fires and times a day and medical aids and times a day and kind of some of those trends that you look for. And 4 times a year we send it out. So I'll make sure that what we've sent out so far this year, I can get that forwarded to you. And then in the future, we'll make sure it makes it into your hands.
Great, wonderful. Now, I think I know what a fire inspection is for the public and to make sure that I understand. What is a fire inspection? It's listed on.
Sure. So I'm trying to look at exactly which one you're talking about. A lot of our performance is based on our fire prevention, our community risk reduction, but there's, a fire inspection, most of this is outside of the company level inspection. So your fire engines will go out. Things have changed a bit with COVID as far as our fire engines going into businesses and restaurants. But often annually, we will go out. When you look at the annual fire inspections performed, it's a bit of a low number right now because we are still holding off on some of that with COVID. Our annual fire inspections, what they do is an engine company will go out and look for improper use of extension cords, proper signage for exiting and occupancy. So some of the more standard fire inspections on small, what we call B2, but smaller businesses. We don't do residential. This is more for businesses. And then when you look at down below, technical on-site inspections and fire plans checks, those are the larger ones that we have a whole staff up here of people that specialize in community risk reduction and fire inspections and fire prevention. So that would be the schools, the churches, the industrial buildings, some of the more technical inspections that take place. So those, that's what they're referring to with the technical on-site inspections. The annual fire inspections are kind of the company level. New construction, that's performed by our community risk reduction. So that's both residential as well as commercial new construction to make sure that the builders are following the fire requirements as those plans as they're being built out. And then the fire plans checks. if you do construction, and what triggers a plans check, and literally those plans come through our headquarters, and we're part of the building permit, and that we work with the building department, and we look at the fire piece of that. So we work hand in hand with your building department. So that's referring to a lot of those, and the biggest thing when we look at that is the timing of them, to make sure that we're not holding up construction. We're not holding up. We don't want the extra step of the fire authority to be holding up plans and building moving forward. So that's why the timing of that is so important.
Can you tell me what is a 5-day plan and a 10-day plan? I mean, how do they get that with the plan checks?
Sure. So it depends on the our ability to turn plans around quickly. It depends on the size of the plan and the amount of work that needs to be done. And so based on that, and I can get you more information, but based on the complexity of the plan check and what we can be held or obligated to, the turnaround time is some of the more simple. Once again, this is going up through community risk reduction, not the fire engine level. But the smaller and more simple plans would be a 5-day check, and then some of the larger scale projects that come out would be the 10-day plan check. So it really depends on the scale of the project.
So who determines if it's going to be a 5 or a 10?
I'd have to get back to you on that. I can ask our plans check people to see how that's determined. I don't have that answer for you right now.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting how many rocks make a pile in those things.
Right. Exactly where that line is, I don't know. I don't know. Something. My guess would be something residential would be something on the smaller level versus something much. Some of the larger commercial. But I can get you a little more information on exactly what that means.
Yeah, because somebody's going to ask me that, and I have no idea.
Sure.
So I appreciate you just. Give me an idea.
Chief, do all the plans go to Irvine, or do we have a regional area that they go to?
So the plans all go to Irvine, but the field inspectors are actually based out of here. So they're broken up by division as well. So the field inspectors work here at my office, which is in Ladera, and they cover the whole kind of the south end of this division, and they're the ones that are actually on site out doing their checks. The people at their desks that are looking at the plans and doing the plans check, that's all out of our Irvine office.
Do you, Chief, do you have any oversight or capabilities on the ambulance contract that our city has?
I do not. So that is 100% a contract that's between the city and Care Ambulance. When it was first established, there was some, I guess, subject matter expert, and that was before my time, but Chief Abel, who was before me, definitely worked with city staff to kind of read through some of that. But in reality, it's 100% agreement on a contract between the city and Care Ambulance. The oversight that we have, even the stats and the performance measures that they send to the city, I don't see those. It really goes between you and the city, or you and Care Ambulance. But when it comes to some oversight, if we're ever having any issues, of which we're not, we have no issues. But when there's, we have a process in place of a form that can get filled out if we're having some issues with response times or the quality of the EMTs. So there is an oversight in place for us to work with our EMS section and even with the county EMS. So we do have the ability and the responsibility to kind of manage the performance measures, but we do not get their stats. That all goes directly to the city.
And just continue on with that. Do you get much of a feedback from your staff in the city about the ambulance service, one way or the other?
No. And I've kind of said it before. Your your level of ambulance service, because you have a direct contact with Care Ambulance, and there's a thing called 201 rights. You have the ability to have your own ambulance service. So a lot of cities do not, and that's a whole discussion in itself. you having 2 dedicated ambulances to your city is something that most cities don't. So typically your ambulance service in San Clemente is really pretty good. The quality of your EMTs, a lot of them like working in San Clemente. So we typically do not have issues with the ambulances themselves. The response times are good. It's when you get that 3rd call. You have 2 ambulances in San Clemente. When you get that 3rd call, it's almost, even though it's still care ambulance coming from Dana Point or San Juan, it's really treated like a mutual aid response because you're pulling from an ambulance from a different service area. So to get that 3rd ambulance, and once again, it's just the layout of your city and being in that cul-de-sac at the end of Orange County, it can take a little bit sometimes, but that's not a fault of the ambulance itself. It's the depth is always difficult down in San Clemente just because of the layout. But for the most part, to answer your questions, do we typically hear issues with care ambulance? No.
Fine. Good. Yeah, it'd be interesting to find out who is who handles that contract in the city. Cecilia, do you have any idea who handles that contract? The ambulance one?
I believe that contract is managed out of the city manager's office.
Okay, yeah, because it'd be interesting to find out how many calls they get and what type of calls and their response times and things. So we'll follow up on that, I'm sure. Any other questions for fire? Thank you. Okay, let's go to marine safety, if I may. Captain, how are you today?
Hello, Nick. I'm here for answering questions that you may have.
Got it. Any questions for the marine safety end of it?
Yeah, I've got one, and it's not about your performance measures, but I was curious. There was a video that came out probably, I don't know, 9 months ago of one of our local homeless people, and I won't name his name, but he sells art down by the pier, and one of your lifeguards was telling him he had to leave the beach under COVID, and this person was baiting the lifeguard and said, well, where am I supposed to go? I'm homeless. And it didn't appear to me that, do you guys have any training about when you're dealing with the homeless, how to tell them what resources they have, just, to do our due diligence in public safety?
Yes, we do, Rick. That incident, this individual that you're speaking about has been told multiple times how to get help. And during it's hard to tell from the video, but it was raining at the time. And he's been advised several times between multiple agencies, the Orange County Sheriff's Department, lifeguards, code enforcement, and whatnot.
I just want to make sure you guys, because the way the video was, of course, he's the one that posted it. So yeah, it was probably the whole picture was different, but just want to make sure that you guys feel comfortable that you do have all the resources necessary to, for our obligation of servicing the homeless.
Yeah, absolutely.
Perfect. Okay, thank you.
Chair Berkuda?
Yes.
Fontaine from OCSD is in the Zoom waiting room if we want to take a break from this discussion and move on to the communications presentation.
That would be very appropriate. I hope that you'll bear with it on it. We're going to be doing the county-wide communication services. We have the communications director online. So go ahead and let's introduce him. And we got Eric.
And I know while they're being let in to the Zoom meeting, they also have a presentation that we can also pull up as well.
Oh, good. Okay.
So this is Eric Schull from Sheriff Technology. I believe my director is also on dial-in. Maybe he's Trying to get unmuted.
Yes, good afternoon. Can you hear me? I am hopefully unmuted.
You are good from this end. Is this David?
Beautiful. Yes, sir. Dave Fontenot. I'm the director of the technology division, which oversees, as Eric said, the communications 800 megahertz system. We have Eric Schull on board as well. He's one of our senior telecommunication engineers, and he's tasked with helping manage that system as well. So we're here to chat with you. We did prepare a brief presentation, which hopefully you have, and I apologize, I'm on the phone calling in just down at our headquarters, leaving another meeting. But I did forward a short presentation. Chief Manhart asked that we try to keep this to about 10 minutes or so, but we'll be happy to answer any questions. And one of our other managers, I'm just receiving some text here, Dina Fulgham of our 800 megahertz system is also on the line as well. So you've got three of us, and I don't know if you can see the presentation in front of you.
We can.
Yep, got it.
Okay, very good. So again, it's just a few slides, you know, to talk to you a little bit about the system. This is a very unique system, what we call here in Orange County, the 800 megahertz countywide coordinated communication system. And I know that's a mouthful, but it's intentional because we are a state-of-the-art interoperable system that's been around for many, many years. Actually dates back to about 1934. I know Eric will probably correct me. When we first started, it's been around for many years. In fact, it formed under the GSA, the old County General Services Agency, and then coming out of the county bankruptcy in the mid-90s, the sheriff inherited the system from GSA, and since that time, it's been run under the jurisdiction of the Sheriff's Department. Although we do serve not just the sheriff and all the contract cities like San Clemente, but all 34 cities, a host of other governmental agencies, approaching some 150 agencies across the county with some 22,000 users. If you look at the second slide there, kind of giving you a quick overview, and I apologize, I can't see the presentation. But it's quite a system. You know, we average about 2.5 million push-to-talks or transmissions on a monthly basis across the system. It's a fully encrypted system on the 700 and 800 megahertz frequencies. However, we do have a number of conventional, what we call clear or unencrypted resources available for those agencies coming into the system from outside the county that might want to interface with the different agencies within the system. If you take a look at the third slide, kind of gives you an overview of the system. And this kind of gives you a geographic picture showing the 6 different simulcast cells and the 37 radio sites scattered across the county, and it's broken into the 6 cells for purposes of coordination and redundancy. As a user were to travel across the county, they can still maintain communications no matter where they're going across the county based on these cells. And if you have any questions regarding that, we'll get into, if we get into any kind of technical, and Eric is really our expert from a technical standpoint, he can talk very well to this aspect. If you take a look at the next slide, the system is governed by what we call the 800 megahertz governance committee. And this is made up of a number of members from across the county, 4 of which are selected from the city managers, the Orange County City Managers Association, to represent the interests of the cities across the county. With a recent change, 1 member will be made up from OCOPSA, the Orange County Sheriffs and Chiefs of Police Association, and a second member will be coming in with the new fiscal year from the Orange County Fire Chiefs association representing the fire service and the marine safety side from an operational standpoint. And then there's several other members representing the county, one from the sheriff, one from Public Works, one from the IT side. These folks are tasked with governing and managing the system, both on a policy and also a financial standpoint. If you, the system is, what's unique about this particular system is that if you look at a number of counties that surround us, whether they be San Diego, LA, San Bernardino, Riverside, they're all trying to emulate what we have. In fact, recently we've spoken with Riverside County. We've had 2 separate visits from LA County, and they're benchmarking our system, and they're trying to emulate what the citizens and the public safety folks in Orange County have had for the last couple of decades. And that's a truly interoperable system where in a critical incident, any law enforcement agency, any fire agency, any public works literally can communicate with each other very seamlessly. And we have a coordinating piece of this up at our Loma Ridge facility, what we commonly call or refer to as Control One. And they're really the quarterback in a mutual aid scenario. And there's a number of resources that they have the ability to patch back and forth or to dedicate to particular tactical or emergency resources or operations. And there's specific designated call channels, for example, if an agency were to come in from outside the county, and they can reach Control One, who can then set up communication with various jurisdictions within the county. But I know I'm approaching my 10-minute limit here, and I did keep it short and high level for a reason. I was asked to do that, but we'd be happy to entertain any questions or go into more depth in a particular area with Eric and Dina and myself on here. You've got the right folks to answer any questions that you might have. And again, I apologize I can't see you or I'm not there in person, but I do appreciate the opportunity to speak to you today. And hopefully one day here soon, when the craziness is behind us, we'll all be face to face and we can do this properly.
You're muted, Nick.
Hey, Dave, I want to thank you very much for helping us out with this and making this presentation. It was very helpful to us.
You're very welcome. Is there, I'm not sure if I was muted at the end there. Is there any questions? I kept it high level and short in the interest of time at the direction of the chief. Is there any questions that Eric or Dina or myself can answer for you? Do you have any specific questions you'd like to ask?
Hey, Dave, I have a question. It's Gary Walsh. I'm a member on the Public Safety Committee. Obviously, in a time of emergency, that's when the rubber really hits the road on this thing. So in the event of a large earthquake, and let's say, how secure are our towers, let's say, for if we lose the towers or if they get moved by earthquakes or whatever, where do we stand on a backup and all that? That's my question.
Well, and if you look at the diagram that outlines the different cell sites, the system is designed to work if there's a particular tower or towers that do go down. We do have a microwave backhaul system, and I'll be happy to let Eric speak to the technical side of that. He's very well versed in that. Eric, if you would like to maybe give them a high level overview of the redundancy in the system.
Sure. So as Dave noted about the towers, the tower locations, the microwave circuits that connect those tower circuits, by and large, we are not reliant on the phone company or fiber optic cables that are buried in the street to connect those sites. We connect them with FCC licensed public safety microwave that goes clockwise and counterclockwise. So if one tower was to suffer an outage, the signals would automatically switch directions and connect to their neighboring towers, and largely communications would be any diminished service would be unnoticed. Short of a complete outage of the tower, our facilities are equipped with battery reserve, diesel generators with a target of 7 days worth of fuel in case of utility power loss, and all those alarms are going back to the location that our director talked about, Loma Ridge, where we have a 24/7 staffed position that is monitoring the alarms coming in from those 37 tower sites, so we can immediately notify utility companies or the generator mechanics or electricians, even the air conditioning mechanics, if we get a high temperature alarm. So our goal is to not lose any of those towers, but certainly in a disaster that can happen. But with multiple signals coming from multiple towers to cover a certain geographic area of the county, the goal is to keep users talking on their original channels and not notice the diminished service.
All right. Well, thank you.
I've got one question. Those 37 sites, are they all primary or are any of those repeaters?
So they operate as the 6 different cells that we have is what we refer to them they are simulcast. So they are all receiving signals from the field units, and they are all simultaneously transmitting out to the field units. So even if one site was to have a brief interruption of power, the field units would still be receiving signals from the remaining tower sites that are covering a given area. There are a few exceptions to that. There are some single site locations in Silverado Canyon and Carbon Canyon that are just designed to fill a very small area, but the towers that are covering the urbanized or the occupied portions of the county, there are multiple towers that are offering coverage into the area. And multiple towers that are receiving the signals from the field units. So, just like in your car when you listening to the FM radio and you pull up to a traffic light and your station might, fade out, right where you stop and you pull forward a foot and it comes right back in. With simulcast and multiple receivers, you're exponentially increasing the number of tower sites that are capable of receiving or transmitting that message.
Okay, thank you.
Certainly.
Hey, Eric, Gary Walsh again. I have another question for you. What is your opinion of the use of ham radio operators in use for cities like ourselves?
I think it is a very helpful layer, not only for backup communications for the public. So if, in a large scale disaster, you could have, residents within a community block exchanging information and getting that information, funneled up to the points to get that information to the first responders. So it's an extra set of communication channels that isn't jamming the cellular network, which may be impaired in a large earthquake or simply overloaded. It's we all know what happens when there's a significant natural disaster in an area. The cell phone system is the first thing that starts getting stressed, with people making calls and sending videos to their friends across the country or whatever else they're doing. So amateur radio can be very helpful, especially when it's associated with a local government, such as a RACES group or an ARES group.
All righty, well, thank you.
Eric, are there many cities that are doing this now?
With the amateur radio component?
Yes.
Yes, most of the cities. I would actually have to pull up a roster, but yeah, most of the cities have active local RACES chapters within the cities, and then the county, our county operates a RACES group also, and we have affiliations with those cities within our jurisdictions to share frequency plans and to participate in each other's testing nets. So that does work well.
Have you ever been involved in a drill or anything where they were together, and logistically, how hard was it to get everybody to mesh together?
I haven't participated in one of their local drills. I was always supporting it more from the back end side to maintain the fixed equipment. Operationally, I know they have more gone into the following the incident management system and adhering to what the emergency operations centers are and dovetailing with their procedures. One of the things that we have here is the canyons and the vulnerability that they have to mudslides and fires, and just having coordination between the fire watch, the people that are in high wind and temperature areas are sitting at intersections, looking for a fire to start. That's something that they can do, using amateur radio exponentially better than they are with people with cellular phones trying to figure out who to call. Because at least with just with traditional our 800 megahertz system, when you're pressing the push to talk button, you're talking to everybody that's listening simultaneously. So you are going to get that message out.
And I have participated in one of those drills on the front end, and it works quite well. There's an annual drill, we call it a radio rodeo, where the RACES groups partner up with our radio communications folks on the different PSAPs, the different public safety answering points, and the different mobile command posts, and they interface quite well with that. They do train for that, and they, as Eric said, they're a great resource for each city. And that's operated out of the emergency management section of each city typically.
So the way for us to get a list of how many cities are involved with that is to find out from the city emergency management system. You wouldn't have a list.
Yes, they should have that information, and if they don't, we'd be happy to provide that to you.
So you have a list of them. Okay. Thank you.
Hi, this is Nick Burkute again. I got a question regarding, let's see, interoperability. Talking, an emergency status from law enforcement, from the sheriffs to the fire. How often do we practice that type of work?
Eric, do you want to take that? I mean, we practice it. It's up to each agency, but I'll let Eric talk to the technical side of that. The system is very capable of that interoperability, and we do. Each agency does drill on that.
Yeah, so I think a little bit of that is also what's behind the radio rodeo that Director mentioned, and that draws a lot of resources, from adjoining counties to do some basic testing and make sure that their ways that their radios are programmed are compatible with the other counties. So that's a actual event where we'll step through all the channels and talk groups that are programmed primarily in command posts to make sure that programming is up to date and working with the neighboring system. Locally within our county, we do regular failure testing where we have our users step through the various fallback procedures that are available within our system. And, just, to throw out the basic terms for them, the first one that they go to is site trunking, which represents some sort of major link failure. Then we go to trunked alternate, which supposes that your local best towers are for some reason unavailable and you need to use alternate resources. Then we go to conventional standalone repeaters, which we have, scattered also at those tower sites, which are less reliant on the infrastructure and operate in a standalone method. And finally, if those aren't available, then we have direct, radio to radio communications, and we have assignments for all the disciplines and all the major, talk groups for use within those disciplines for them to have alternate paths of communication. And we have those alternate paths, all the way from Santiago Peak, which is just under, 6,000 feet, all the way out to Catalina Island, which, covers a lot of the coastal areas. So those are some of the things that we do for drills. For actual testing with adjoining areas, technology is getting closer to that. Just even recently, we still had disparate technologies used by adjoining counties, so direct interoperability was a little bit harder. But our system is, and most adjoining counties are of what's called Project 25, which, and forgive me if I'm speaking to things that you already know about. Project 25 is a set of standards that defines a basic level of interoperability and digital voice. Up until Project 25 standards were adopted by the public safety community, each radio manufacturer was largely doing their own technology and their own feature set. With Project 25, that identified a minimum feature set that radios must be equipped with. And as what that has enabled us to do is, like, for a good example for San Clemente is Camp Pendleton, which operates a federal government trunk system in their on their base. Their radios are capable of operating on our system, and because fire has so much interaction with Camp Pendleton Fire Department, we actually program the 800 megahertz Orange County CCCS system into select radios in Camp Pendleton, so they have direct operation on the Orange County system to work those fire incidents for mutual aid that may be on the border. And we have the same situation, with the Aero Bureau for LA Sheriff, for state parks, for Long Beach. There's a list of people that we are able to do that direct interoperability, which is something that Project 25 standards offers.
Okay, Nick Burkut again. Another question is: do you still have interoperability with the railroads?
The railroads. So, not directly with Amtrak, but a little bit with Los Angeles County Sheriff that provides the services on Metrolink. And there's two improvements that we have seen just really recently on that. The first one is that LA County Sheriff is now buying multi-band radios. So they have and Director Fontenot touched on this earlier, we have conventional access channels where when they're in our territory, they can come up on those channels and they can hail our Control 1, and any of our field units can be interconnected to those resources. The second capability that we would have is that we do have, most of Los Angeles County is on the UHF frequency band. We do also have UHF conventional clear resources that we could tie direct in. That requires some advanced, programming to get those frequencies, into the radios. We have done that, with various agencies. One of the ones that, again, this would be very helpful for San Diego. The San Diego is also running a similar joint powers system that's run by county, and their system's called RCS. So we, in all of our radio templates, we have a channel called RCS Access that will work throughout San Diego County. And concurrently, they also have our channel in their radios called OC Access. So if they come up into our territory, they can talk direct to our people, and if we go down into their territory, we can talk direct to their people. But direct with railroads, there are Amtrak, they're on the VHF band, and we do have county-run resources, so it's technically possible. I don't think it's ever come up. And we would have to get, programming into their radios for our system, which we're perfectly permitted to do. It would just take that coordination with Amtrak or the freight companies in order to do so.
Yeah, the reason for the question is that we're right along the coast here, and if we have for example, a freight problem with hazardous materials, can they communicate? Can we communicate with them?
Yeah. Now the good part is that I would say that the let's see, it's not Southern Pacific anymore. I think it's Union Pacific. So Union Pacific, their sworn police departments, there was some FCC change in rules that gave them access to the same mutual aid channels that our law enforcement has access to. So potentially, they should have those channels in their law enforcement radios. So they should be able to come up on our interop resources. But the actual cab locomotives, I would bet not.
Are there any other questions for our communications folks?
But that's actually a very good, thought-provoking question about especially the freight railroads and Amtrak as to what our interop. I think we've gone more down the avenue of working with our three-letter Fed agencies, with the Coast Guard, with our adjoining counties. Certainly with CAL FIRE, for all the territory that they have, with California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation, with CHP, those agencies, we've worked hardest with them to get direct resources, so our folks can talk to their folks.
Right, and the other key to that is, if you haven't drilled it, the guy in the field is kind of like, okay, so how do I rig my radio to utilize it properly to talk to the guy down the street that's in a department?
Right, and I think that the other part that Director Fontenot touched on that's a unique capability, at least I think it's a unique capability in Orange County, is that the Control 1 can act as that single point that is always available, and they're monitoring all those channels. And if somebody comes up on the hailing channel and says, this is this is, California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation, and I'm in a transportation van, and I have, a flat tire in Anaheim, and, can you please, get some Anaheim units? Our Control 1 position, they have all the charts and information in front of them in order to figure out, well, what resource can I patch, to patch CDCR to Anaheim Police. So that's, I think that's where we rely on that function, taking place.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions for our folks here?
I don't have any questions for him, but I just have a comment to what you were asking. And one of the key differences, having been retired as a hazmat captain, is that in a hazmat incident, you generally don't have a loss of communications like you would in a earthquake or such. So generally, we would form a command post, and representatives from all the different agencies would be at the command post. So generally, the communications flow fairly well just over everybody's individual radios. So generally, the communications part isn't a real issue.
That you get on scene and the IC, takes control and figures out what communication resources are going to be, divvied up among the work groups that are responding.
That's correct. Like the fire department would be doing the hazardous materials end of it, and they would have somebody at the command post along with the people from, let's say, Union Pacific, and they would talk back and forth. The sheriffs would also have a representative there, and then they can talk to their people. So generally, the communications isn't an issue at a hazardous materials incident.
Right, and one of the things that our system has had, since the post-bankruptcy system was put in 1997, which we rode that technology system for about 25 years. I know LA Sheriff is still getting some more life out of their system, so they're still winning on longevity of their technology. But when that system was at inception, that was one of the base requirements is that, okay, well, we have talk groups for, we'll say Sheriff's Department in San Clemente where they're dispatching their units. But when, Sheriff wants to talk to Irvine, police, we want to have ready resources available that the officers know how to find, so they can instantly, go and talk to another agency's, frontline people. And the same thing works between disciplines. That if Orange County Sheriff in San Clemente wants to talk to Orange County Fire Authority in San Clemente, they have talk groups in their radios that are a few button pushes away where they can directly talk to each other. They can talk to Public Works. They can talk to to lifeguard. All those resources are built into the templates that we have designed for the different disciplines.
Can I say one thing from the operations level? I technically don't want to say too much, but I can tell you operationally, marine safety, sheriff, fire, all the different fire agencies, we all use the same 800 megahertz trunk radio system. We talk back and forth daily. The only thing that we overcome is the fact that the sheriff's frequencies are encrypted, whereas fire and marine safety are not. But we have a mutual aid frequency down here, what's called 9 Charlie or 9 South. It's very, very easy, and we don't train on it because we actually do it almost every day. We talk to the sheriff's helicopter, we talk to our helicopter, we talk to the harbor department boat. The lifeguards will be on the same frequency. So we really don't test with it. I think that was one of the questions that came up. But operationally, we use these all the time. Our remote rescues, we use them all the time. Working with Riverside County Fire on the Ortega Highway, with Camp Pendleton Fire coming back backup, whether it's a medical aid, a structure fire, a vegetation fire. We really don't test with it because we do it so frequently. We all carry every fire engine we have. It's a different color every year. We have a radio operator's handbook. OCC puts it out for us every year. It's got every frequency in it. It has, I can go right on there and look to see what frequencies San Clemente lifeguards are using. Typically, they come over to our frequency. We run our calls on the beaches with them. So it operationally, from my lower level of technology, it's really a pretty simple system that works. And not only every agency in Orange County, including Public Works, all the different disciplines, but even outside the county, we literally do it on a daily basis between San Clemente and Ortega Highway. And you know, a little more challenges up on the LA side of things, but down here in San Clemente and South County, it works great. And it's very easy. I'm not a techie guy, but it's very, very easy for us to use.
Well, thank you. That's very nice to. I really appreciate hearing that. Thank you.
Yeah, and that is nice to hear from the operator standpoint that it is working as designed, and that those code books specifically that you rely on those. So that's good information that we'll put to good use.
If there's no other comments and stuff, I want to thank the communications crew. Director Bontno, I sure appreciate you coming on and having your staff help us.
Absolutely. We're glad to do it. And, it's one of the services you have as being a partner on the system. We're here to serve you both at the operational area, as the chief just said, but also, on the administrative side and technical side as well. So whenever we can support like this, we're happy to do so. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Great. Appreciate it. You can sign if you'd like, but we got a few mundane things left to do on our committee meetings. So thank you for your support.
All right. Thank you for the opportunity. I'm gonna hang up. Bye.
Yes. Thank you. Have a great day. Bye-bye.
Bye. Got it. Well, there we go. We had a
I'll
nice.
note that they did not opt to stay on and listen to the rest of our meeting.
What? Hey, I've got a.
I know Chief Manhart and Chief Bianco are going, those lucky guys.
I know. Chairman Bracuda, you're muted.
This thing automatically goes to mute for some reason.
Well, you got to get off that Commodore 64 and get a real computer.
Thank you.
I've got a question for you. I don't know where this should go in our meeting, but maybe I'll try to stick it in here and see what happens. Gary asked a question about RACES, and I think got a pretty substantial answer. Actually, our recommendation for RACES was supposed to be on this agenda, but didn't make it onto this agenda for whatever reason. And I'd like to see it get on our next agenda for our recommendation. But at this time, I'd like to maybe have a straw poll regarding if the four of us are in accord to at our next meeting and discussing it, would we be prone to making the recommendation that our city participate in the RACES radio plan, whatever that is.
Right. And in fact, we're planning on next meeting having a presentation from the RACES folks in the area so that we get an idea when, because we do want to make sure that we do have a component in the city. Right now, it's kind of loosely done, and we've lost our disaster preparedness person that made a presentation a couple of months ago, Stephen Foster. He's gone to a similar job in Tustin. So I'm talking to his former boss, and we're getting that together too. So that's on the plan. We're going to get find out what the RACES folks are doing and how they're able to help us in the big disaster and other types of operational things that we may not need to have. The other communities use it for parades and things. So there's some alternate types of uses and stuff. So more to come. I think these little presentations are useful for understanding what we have available.
Okay, so that presentation is definitely going to be at our next meeting.
That's my plan. That's my plan. I gotta get Adam on board with the thing, make sure it's agendized.
Along with the presentation, can we get that list of the cities that are using it now?
I'm sure we can. I'll make a note of that.
And then Nick, again, it's something I don't see on the agenda is under unfinished business is what about the technological side of those license plate readers? Are we going to discuss that in unfinished business?
Yes, I've got something.
We can do it then. We can do it then. That's fine.
But I want to complete, go down the list on these performance measures.
Okay.
We've got a couple more to do here.
Okay.
So that'll be probably the next one to do. Marine safety. Rod, can you help us out with that?
I'm available to answer any questions you have.
Okay. I've got one. You're looking at, I'm looking at the stats that were sent to us, and I'm comparing them against the previous year. And the estimated beach visitors for the first half of this fiscal year, you're at 58% of the total number. I don't know how to read this thing properly, but you got 471,000 estimated beach visitors, and I guess you had estimated actual at last year of 2,373,000. So I guess it's, as I get it, it's 58% of what you had the previous year. Now, what has COVID done to the people out here, and is it just cold weather that chases the first part of the year out? Do you have any?
Well, actually, with COVID, I mean, our numbers are up. October was the highest in attendance, and well, higher than the last 20-year average, which is 167,878, and for October we had over 221,000. And then for November, it was the highest, or higher. It was higher than the 20-year average by 11,000, and December was the third highest in the 20-year average. So COVID has played a big part in beach attendance. And if you look at the rescue count for October, our 20-year average for that month of October is usually 32. We had 162, but a lot of our lifeguarding business is dependent upon weather, surf conditions, water temperature, air temperature, and now with kids doing kind of a split schedule of doing online and or being at school, it's definitely seen an increase. But once you move into November and December, the average temperatures are 56, 57 degrees. Air temperature and water temperature is down, so you're getting less of attendance there. But you'll see an uptick, coming up here for March, April, May, June. So you'll see definitely the increase with the nicer weather.
Yeah. It's a very unusual year with this COVID stuff too. Has it affected your understanding of all these numbers? How's that affected these numbers from the years past?
Well, definitely, I'd have to go back and take a look at, when we first reopened the beaches back in late April, May. It was it was summer. It started summer right away. I mean, kids weren't in school. So we were staffing towers during the week where we normally wouldn't be staffing towers, and struggling to try to get the staffing to come in to cover that. You didn't know what was going to happen from day to day. Some kids were, doing a split schedule, and some were doing online, so it was really hard to predict. So it definitely played a role, and it was something we got through. But I'm hoping that with schools reopening, and I know my kids are going back full to in-person school, so it's definitely taken a change in the good direction.
Got it. Good. Any other questions for your safety? No? We're good? Okay, now let's move on to code compliance. What we might do, I don't know, Cecilia, can you do anything with this, or should we wait until Adam gets back?
I would prefer that you save your questions for the subject matter expert, Adam Atamian, on the next two, which are code compliance and park ranger performance measure. I think there'll be much more value added if you can get information from him about what these numbers mean.
Got it. I'll take that. Okay. We're going to go to new business. Any other new business that we need to attend to that has come up? Do we have a
I'll bring this up. I think talked about it briefly the last meeting, but I'd like to put on the agenda. I've looked over our work plan, and under best practices, I think this fits. And Gary had brought up bikes on the sidewalk and surfboard carriers and a couple of other things. And I'd like to put that back on the agenda to discuss for possible municipal code issues, or possible addressing it through municipal codes. And under best practices, it's clear that on our work plan that we can certainly address that. So I'd like to see that put back on the agenda if I could get a second for that.
I'll give you a second.
Yeah, not a problem there.
Okay.
Put that on there because that's an interesting thing. It's only going to get more interesting as we pass it along.
And then also, I don't know if anybody listened to the last city council meeting, but the city council, a motion by Councilmember James to send this to the homeless subcommittee and the public safety committee, the issue of possibly addressing people storing things on the sidewalk. I know several cities have municipal code sections regarding that. And then also shopping carts. The use of shopping carts outside the private property where they're picked up. And I know other cities have addressed that. The city council voted 4-0 to move that to our committee. So I'd like to see that put on the agenda also, so we could start discussing that, because it was a city council direction that we do address that. So instead of waiting for it to go through a bunch of channels, I'd like to see that put on the agenda also, if I could get a second for it. I think Joe gave me a second. He was muted.
Give you the wave.
Yeah. We plan on bringing that to an agenda, probably to your next agenda. But yeah, that request from the council came just last week. So we'll work with Nick on getting it.
And we should talk about those doggone train horns too.
Yeah.
I had a question, Cecilia. Last meeting, Adam, we tried to put something on the agenda, and Adam said that we had to stay within the work programs that we had. And we just need some clarification on that, because I'm not sure if that's right or not.
Yeah, well, it was regarding, I think, the bicycles on the sidewalk and all that.
Right.
I think that's But again, I looked at best practices and talked to a couple of different council members that thought that would certainly fall under best practices. And so I'd like to move it back to the agenda now. And if Adam has an issue with it, he'll contact us or do whatever.
I don't think he will. I just think he was trying to make a comment about things that we're supposed to be doing. And there might be a pretty gray area, what it's supposed to be or not. Like we voted last time about the license plate readers and stuff. Well, that wasn't part of our work program. We still voted on that. So I just need some clarity on what stuff like that we're supposed to be dealing with. So.
Yeah.
Okay, we can provide that to you.
Okay, good. All right. Any other new business items that come to mind? Okay, let's go to the unfinished business. And the first one I've got here, I'm going to add in here on the flock report. Apparently, when Adam prepared this document, the agenda, he forgot to put on there about the flock proposal. And and I'm referring to the minutes of last month's meeting, and we had that presentation from the flock organization. The proposal that we came up with, because Rick Loeffler and I were tasked with having forming a little subcommittee to come up with a proposal. We are proposing a 30 camera system, and with a price tag of $82,500 for the year. And that will be what we need to do. Now, the problem we've got, because it's not on the agenda, the paper agenda right here, we can't consider it unless it's we have a special meeting. And I talked to Cecilia about it, and we'd like to move this along to the city council, and we can do that with a special meeting, but we need 72 hours to do that. So it means that next week, if we can get a concurrence on a particular date and time, we can get this thing moving along. So.
And Chair Barcuda, I got clarification on that, and the noticing for a special meeting is actually 24 hours.
Oh,
so a little short time for you to work within.
Real quick, because I know how Nick and I feel about this recommendation. I was just wondering if Joe or Gary had anything, any discussion they wanted to make about that.
Yeah, I think after Ed spoke about it last week, I was pretty in line with it too. I mean, I had that incident in front of my house where someone stole my catalytic converter, and I mean, I think we have those things. That helps the police, it helps us, and helps our neighborhoods a lot. So I'd be for it. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm also for it. Just a little side note, and maybe a way we can fund it is the state has set aside $73 million for cities for improvements for law enforcement for women's abuse and such. And I'm wondering, Chief Manhart, if you think somehow we can elbow that in under, and I'm not sure, do these license plate readers, can we designate them for, like, let's say women that have restraining orders on people? Can those license plate readers pick up for like a small area like San Clemente, or is it just they just are fed in on?
We don't have the capability for that. That hasn't been integrated for those types of crimes.
Okay.
And Gary, to make that thing operational the way you want to do it, we'd have to know the license plate number of the particular cars that have the restraining order. It doesn't go by people, it goes by the license plate of the vehicle. So, unless you had the license plate or the description of the vehicle, and the person could just, get another car for the day and then go around the whole thing. So Yeah, it's not, I've been looking at grants myself, and I haven't been able to find one just yet. However, we don't necessarily have to come up with a financing package to wrap this all together. I'd like to do that. But if we don't, the city, with our recommendation, may decide to budget it. And we're coming up to the budget cycle, and we need to get that in there for consideration. So
yeah, I think they're going to find the money. I mean, a grant would be great, but I don't think this is predicated on a grant money. I think that sum of money that the city council is going to find a spot for that, and if not now, especially in the budget that starts in July.
Yeah. So it's, and I'm the one that thought, hey, let's wrap this all up in a nice little package with financing and stuff. Problem, I can't find the financing at this point. So I think we should.
Our city manager, our interim city manager, that's what he does, is finds the dough for it. So I have lots of confidence that, like I say, I think they'll find the money somehow.
Yeah, that's good. So anyway, 24 hours, right? On Cecilia, on
a special meeting, yes.
Right.
So you're looking at something maybe Thursday then?
You're looking at the 25th. This is it looks like a one-item agenda as it is.
I think it's just a matter of voting to make the recommendation. I think it's a 10-minute meeting.
Right. So I propose, let's do, see if it's going to jiggle somebody's agenda here. How about the 25th, which is this Thursday at 11 o'clock? That's not good for you, Joe, huh?
No, I can't make 11. I don't know if you need me for a quorum or not. I mean, I'm in favor of this, but it's better off later in the day for me.
Oh, okay. Well, how about 3 o'clock?
I can make that work, but once again, if you don't need a forum on it, you can make it 11 and vote without me.
Gary, can you make it 11 o'clock on Thursday?
I can make it anytime from 10 o'clock on.
Well, why don't we just plan on 11 o'clock, Nick, and we'll do it. We'll have a quorum and we'll just pass it.
Good. Okay. Fine with me. Super. Okay.
Do we have to make a motion?
Now, can Cecilia set that up? Is that?
We would.
Okay.
I think do we need a motion on this, Cecilia?
Yeah, go ahead and make a motion and a second, and then take a vote on that. And then at the end of this meeting, when we adjourn this meeting, we'll adjourn it to that special meeting date. And then we'll set up the rest. We'll post the agenda, and I'll work with IT to get a Zoom link for the 25th at 11 a.m.
Got it. Rick, you want to make the motion?
Sure. I move that we schedule and attend a special meeting of the Public Safety Committee on Thursday, March 25th, to discuss the recommendation to the City Council regarding the flock camera system.
Second.
Moved in second. In favor, raise your hand. Looks good. Unanimous. Thank you, Cecilia. We'll go from there. All right. So that takes care of that part. On the unfinished business, number A, communications disaster preparedness update. The update is that we're planning on having the RACES component make a presentation next month. And then I'll add right into what the big plan on major disaster communications. Okay. Homelessness project update. Either one of you have anything?
Well, just to bring everybody up to date, because I'm not sure if everybody's up to date, but the City Council, as we know, voted for a homeless outreach coordinator. They're currently interviewing, I believe, or at least maybe Cecilia can tell us a better update on that. Cecilia, you have any update for us on that, on how the hiring process is going?
Yeah, so we're still screening the applications and looking to set up an external oral board to interview the qualified candidates.
All right, thank you. And let's see, keep myself on track here. What we're doing is the city also voted to end the contract with CityNet and not extend their contract through March. So we virtually stopped having a CityNet contract several weeks ago. So the sheriffs are kind of working around that. And there's a lot of things that have to get set up for the homeless outreach coordinator. And among them is we have to establish ourselves as in the city as a provider. That's what the new homeless outreach coordinator will be, a provider, and in order to share any of the data. So we currently are not at that status. And in fact, when I asked the Orange County Health Care Agency, they said they had suspended taking all applications for providers for till mid-April, and just for technical reasons. So anyways, we'll probably be behind the curve by the time the homeless outreach coordinator arrives. So quite a bit of other stuff just going on behind the scenes, but that's all just within the homeless outreach projects and stuff. So that's it in a nutshell.
Good. Any questions on this one? No? Okay.
Oh, I did have one thing. I'm sorry. One thing in a meeting with Sergeant Burke and Deputy Musik, who's our homeless liaison officer for City of San Clemente. One thing that came out of that I thought was interesting, and maybe we could address this up through the city, is Deputy Musik told us that if she had access to bus passes, she said in a significant number of cases where we tend to get transient people that show up and now they're here in our city, in her contacts with them, they're willing to go back. They would say, hey, I'll go back to Anaheim, I'll go back to Riverside, I'll go back to wherever they came from. They just don't have a way there. She said if she had bus passes to give them, that we could direct them back out of the city voluntarily. I mean, they want to go, they just don't have a means of getting there. And I think that would be a fairly cheap thing for the city to provide her, and both our homeless liaison outreach coordinators actually. So just food for thought on that.
Gary, I got a question regarding that.
Yeah.
Do you know if other cities are giving these people bus passes going south?
That's how they all got here.
Well, they can get bus passes from a number of organizations and places. So there's no evidence that cities are dumping on us, but we do know that homeless are reaching us through the transit system.
Interesting. Okay. Well, just to get an idea of what's going on with that. That's a good idea. If they voluntarily want to go and take a ride, that's fine with me too. I don't know where we go with that as far as asking the city to provide tickets. Cecilia, do you have any idea on that one? Who would be the one to ask?
I am not sure, but I can look into it, and we can report out at the next meeting, or actually at the next homeless subcommittee meeting, which I believe is next week or the week after.
Oh, good. Okay.
I would suggest perhaps discussing it with some of the city council. Some of us have made contacts with some city council folks, and I think it could just be a motion on the floor from them. So,
since you mentioned the meeting with Sergeant Burke and Deputy Musa, Tyler Bowden and I also had a meeting with them. I found out something interesting that I didn't know, and I don't know if all of you know it, but the county is divided up into 3 service areas, like a north, a central, and a south. And I was asking Sergeant Burke about the fact that, well, if Santa Ana has a shelter bed available, they're supposedly supposed to take from everybody. That's part of the deal. If they have a bed available, they can take from outside their own city. But the fact is, the deputies can't cross these service areas. So we have no shelter available in South County, and deputies can't transport anybody into Santa Ana or anywhere else. So until we get some kind of shelter facility or something, we can't even get these people to those places. Even if they want to go, we can't transport them. I know that Adam's looking into possibly how park rangers or code enforcement could fit into that, but most of these shelters, you can't just go and, drop somebody off. It has to be like a referral. So that's something we need to, in the homeless subcommittee, we need to look at that as in the future as, possible ways to remedy that. Because like Gary was saying, the bus pass, if they want to go, I think we could probably figure that out. But if they want to go to a shelter, we've got to figure out how to get them there. So just an interesting quirk in the system here.
Got it.
Yeah, and just to play on what Rick was saying is to give you the stark number in this South County that he's talking about, and that's from Irvine, Laguna Niguel, Rancho Santa Margarita, all the way south here in that area. There is one shelter, and that's in Laguna Beach, and that's primarily for Laguna Beach, and it rarely has an opening. So we almost virtually have no shelter in our catchment area. Just to bring it to what it is.
Chair Barcuda, just an administrative note here. The city council meeting is going to start at 5 p.m. So you guys have a little less than 15 minutes to wrap up your meeting because we will get kicked off the live feed.
Understood. Okay, great. Anything on Gary, anything on legislation? Nothing there. Okay.
Nothing significant. No.
All right. Then I will run right down here to staff reports, police services. Captain Manhart, do you have anything?
Well, I'll keep it short. In a couple of weeks, we're going to be filming a bicycle safety video. So it's going to cover both bicycle rules of the road for regular bikes and also e-bikes. And so once that's completed, we were going to share with the city so the city could put it on the cable site and on the computer or anywhere else that they can broadcast it. So we're going to send it out as well, work with the city, and hopefully limit some of the bicycle incidents that we have. So that's around the corner.
Good news. That's good. Thank you. Chief Rob, how are you today?
I'm good. I don't have a lot for you. One of the things that we've just started over the last couple of days partnering with the healthcare agency is reaching out for vaccinations for the homeless as a high risk, an at-risk group. So our paramedic units are going out to a lot of the shelters and trying to help and offer a vaccine to them. So our groups are doing that. But other than that, I don't have a lot else for the group today.
Good.
Chief Bianco, I read an article in the paper where I think it's Sacramento is actually going under freeway overpasses and stuff and panning out to find homeless folks for vaccinations. What do you think of that?
Yeah, so what we're, our focus right now is the sheltered homeless. So that's kind of a way for us. One of the big things at Johnson & Johnson, there's still not a lot of it. So what we're doing with these sheltered homeless, it's still requiring us to go back for a second dose. So it's one way to start the process. We haven't started reaching out to the ones that have chosen not to be sheltered, but trying to figure out the game plan and how we can assist the healthcare agency with doing that. That'll be the next step.
Yeah, good luck with that.
Interesting. All right. Yeah.
All right, I'll keep it brief since we have a short time here. Our junior lifeguard program will be in motion this summer. We started our JG swim test for new participants, started 2 weekends ago and last weekend, and we have this weekend, and then April 17th and 18th and May 2nd. Our rookie training academy will have 13 cadets, and I'll start this weekend. They'll run 5 consecutive weekends, so over 100 hours of training for them. Our CSD spring starts April 3rd through 11th. So you'll see towers open through that span of time. And after that point, you'll see some of the main towers open on weekends as well, weather dependent. Also, Marine Safety put out a new beach ocean safety tour video that's available on the city YouTube site. It's 20 minutes long. Every year in the springtime, this time of year, we typically go out to the local elementary schools, 8 of them, and give a beach safety presentation to the 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders. Because of COVID last year and because of the situation now, we're not able to present that crucial information to that age group. So we did a video, and it's been well received, and it's been sent out to all the principals to distribute to all those teachers to get the message out. And that's it for Marine Safety.
Nice.
Any questions? Okay. I don't have anything to add other than the special meeting that's going to be on Thursday. And I want to thank our participants, all of us, for helping out, and especially Cecilia. Thank you for your help. Joe, do you have anything? You're muted.
Muted.
Yeah. Okay. Ron, my grandkids are real excited about that junior lifeguard program coming back. That's for sure. Yeah, the neighborhood watch program. We have another little map we got to show you guys, or we can show you. I think Cecilia's going to put it up for us. So we took one area southwest, and we try to divide it into some areas that's going to be manageable. And so there's 20 areas, or I guess we're going to call them sections in Southwest. And boy, Justin Mank is really helping us out a lot on this stuff. And we kind of decided, you know, the one that I'm captain of down here, we have about 100 houses in there, and it's pretty hard to manage more than 100 houses. So there's not going to be much more than 100 houses in either one of those. And if you look at Cypress Cove, you know, that's a different area of its own, and there's probably 220 houses in there. But anyhow, so those are the we have 20 sections there, and I think we're going to have Justin help us with the other 7 districts. So the Neighborhood Watch program is proposed to have 7 districts, and in each district there'll be approximately 20 sections depending on it. And then later on down the road, those sections can be broken up into blocks. But at some time, we're going to want, or hopefully we could get all these section captains. And that's the way we plan on, you know, trying to organize that structure of it. Once we get done with this, we're going to come and bring it to you guys and get your approval to maybe go to council. And if they'll approve that certain structure, then we'll kind of stamp that, and then we'll move on to the nuts and bolts of the program, where we're going to try and come up with programs and things like that. And there's a lot to go still on this, but I think we're starting to make a little dent in this anyhow. So you have anything else, Rick?
No, it's coming along, and Joe's been diligent in getting the map nailed down. And this is the south section that we're using kind of as the pilot to get everything ironed out. And then, as Joe said, we'll divide the whole city up. And I'm excited about getting it rolling out, maybe sometime, you know, early in the summer.
Yeah. And, you know, Captain Manhard made a mention about the video they're making about with the bicycles and stuff. And we hope someday that every year we could, with the help of OCSD, we could have a program that we could stream out to people that they could get together and watch. If we really want to get this program going, we're going to have a lot of different areas, hopefully, and it'd be really difficult to get someone out in person to do it all. So that's part of our plan, and we'll keep you posted as we go.
Got it. All right. Any other committee members' comments? And Cecilia, do you have any comments other than let's get going, huh?
No, I have nothing to add at this time.
Good. Okay.
Okay, well, I'll make a motion that we adjourn this meeting to reconvene at our special meeting on Thursday, March 25th at 1100 hours.
A second.
All in favor, raise your hand. Good, got it. Okay, we're adjourned. Thank you very much, and we'll let the city council take their due on it. All right.
You guys, thank you.
Appreciate it. All right.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Okay, where are we at here?